leave me be for a while so I can catch up on my sleep." She said it matter-of-factly, like paying ghosts was something everybody did. "Not ghosts, silly. Spirits. The spirits of your ancestors follow each of us around. You too. You just have to know how to listen to them. But some of them can be awfully chatty, and you may wish you didn't know how. Ghosts are altogether different." Improbably, a freshly dug burial plot sat in the far corner, and we reached it as Alita and I concluded our conversation, the casket traveling through the air behind us, courtesy of Callista. Virginia and Fiona embraced next to the open grave, and Fiona wiped a tear from her own cheek. Dr. Ibis playfully scolded her.
"No crying in the graveyard, child. You'll grieve the spirit."
Fiona nodded and sniffled, holding back the tears. Chantel, the incomparable chef who prepared our delicious meals, prayed as she swayed slowly from side to side. An older man who'd accompanied Glendora comforted her. Dr. Ibis spoke quietly with Alita, and Josephine appeared suddenly in front of me, pressing her face into my shoulder.
"I hate this so much," she said as I wrapped my arms around her and Briar reached across to rub her back. Callista looked unaffected, or perhaps lost in concentration, the casket hovering above the fresh hole in the ground. It was then that the sky darkened and the wind picked up, furiously bending the trees around us. Trees which, incidentally, were filled with birds. Ravens, owls, vultures, and an assortment of feathered creatures who I was sure would never be so brazen to perch near so many people, and certainly not together, as some of them were natural predator and prey. But, as I was coming to terms with since arriving in Charleston, my idea of the natural order of things bore little resemblance to the reality in which the Bells dwelt.
"A murder of crows," Briar whispered to me. "Ironic and appropriate, no?"
"A parliament of owls," I countered, "and a committee of vultures, and yes, sadly, ironically appropriate."
Dr. Ibis spoke to the assemblage, and Callista gently lowered Walter to his final resting place. It was then that the hail started to fall. The air seemed charged with electricity. What I assumed was Callista's powers shielded us from the icy stones, as they'd hit an invisible barrier a few feet above us and slide harmlessly to the ground. Dr. Ibis finished his remarks, and Virginia stepped to the head of the grave. She gracefully removed one of her silk gloves, bent at the knees, and lowered herself to the ground, where she picked up a handful of dirt. She bit her bottom lip to keep from crying, then inhaled deeply and held the breath. Josephine approached, offering her unique cure for emotional ailments, but Virginia raised a hand to politely rebuff the sweetest bell. "Thank you, Josephine, but no, I need to feel every bit of this pain." Josephine nodded and retreated to her spot next to Briar. "As long as many of us have lived, we've experienced tragedy, both personal and on a grand scale," Virginia said softly. "And we understand that this life, for most, is ephemeral. But losing someone like Walter is still the worst kind of pain. A man so selfless and honest, so loving and kind, diminishes each of us. We wish him a swift and easy journey to whatever treasures await him on the other side." Dr. Ibis shuffled over and hugged Virginia, who walked over and stood next to Callista. Glendora stepped forward, holding tiny Tyson Walter in her arms. Dr. Ibis walked to the other side of the open grave, and after giving Walter's grandniece a reassuring nod, she carefully passed her infant son across the casket. As they completed the handoff, Briar grabbed my hand and squeezed. I held my breath until Dr. Ibis held the baby in his arms, cradling and rocking him. My first fascinating experience with a Gullah funeral left me with a pile of questions I hoped I'd remember to ask Alita the next time we had a quiet moment. But above all, I marveled at the softball-sized hail that littered the ground all over the island, especially considering the blue sky I could see back over the mainland and skyline of Charleston herself. 2. Ezekiel. Then. Under the light of a full moon, Ezekiel buried his brother, by himself, in a grave he'd dug with